In 1927, Charles Lindbergh was arguably the most famous man on Earth. After completing the first solo flight across the Atlantic, the American public practically worshipped him. He married Anne Morrow, and in 1930 they had a son, Charles Lindbergh Jr. The press quickly nicked the infant the Eaglet, cementing the family's status as American royalty. That perfect image collapsed on the rainy night of March 1, 1932. Around 10 p.m., the baby's nurse walked into the second-floor nursery to check on 20-month-old Charlie. The crib was empty. Lindbergh's visibility, the very thing that made him a global hero, had inadvertently drawn a predator. His fame had turned his child into a lucrative target. News of the kidnapping spread within hours. Local police, reporters, and neighbors swarmed the Lindbergh estate. In their rush to help, they churned up the mud outside the nursery, destroying critical tire tracks and footprints. Amidst the chaos, investigators recovered 3 physical clues: a set of footprints, a broken homemade wooden ladder, and a single white envelope. This document shows the ransom note. The writer demanded $50,000 and used broken English, but the most distinctive detail is in the bottom right corner. The kidnapper signed with a hand-drawn symbol, 2 intersecting blue circles with a red center, punctured by 3 holes. With the physical crime scene heavily compromised by the public, authorities couldn't rely on traditional patrols. They had to trace the few physical objects left behind to find a man who vanished into the dark. Over the next month, the kidnapper mailed a dozen more notes, escalating the ransom price and playing psychological games. A 72-year-old retired school principal from the Bronx named Dr. John F. Condon volunteered to act as an intermediary, eventually making direct contact with a suspect he called Cemetery John. On April 2nd, Condon met this mysterious man in a dark Bronx cemetery. He handed over a specially designed wooden box containing $50,000 in cash, receiving a note in return that promised the baby was safe on a boat near Massachusetts. This image shows a $20 gold certificate. Investigators specifically assembled the entire ransom payment using these bills, distinguished by their golden seals and text, to ensure the money itself became an investigative tool. The U.S. government was actively recalling gold certificates at the time. This meant the bills were becoming rare in everyday circulation. Whenever one was spent, it would stand out to bank tellers, allowing the FBI to track the specific serial numbers. Federal agents understood they were dealing with a highly cautious criminal who preferred to operate in the shadows. To catch him, they turned the currency into a traceable homing beacon. The kidnapper had lied. Charles Lindbergh personally flew his plane back and forth over the Massachusetts coastline searching for the boat. It didn't exist. 72 days after the abduction, a truck driver discovered the body of little Charles Jr. near the estate. He had been dead since the night of the kidnapping. The homemade ladder had broken while the kidnapper was descending, killing the infant instantly. For 2 years, the investigation stalled. Slowly, flagged gold certificates appeared across New York City, spent in small amounts. Then, in 1934, a man used one to buy gas in Manhattan. The suspicious attendant scribbled the license plate in the margin, 4U1341. The killer had evaded the largest manhunt in American history, but a single transaction for gasoline gave police exactly what they needed. Federal agents traced a license plate to a 35-year-old German immigrant and carpenter named Bruno Hauptmann. When police raided his home in the Bronx, they uncovered a massive cache of evidence. Over $13,000 of the ransom money was hidden inside his garage walls. Inside a closet door, investigators found Dr. Condon's phone number etched into the wood. This photograph shows an investigator examining the ladder left at the crime scene. A forestry expert analyzed the grain patterns and proved that a specific piece of wood from the ladder, rail 16, matched a floorboard cut directly from Hauptmann's own attic. Hauptmann maintained his innocence, but the prosecution didn't need to rely on the fallibility of memory. They secured a conviction by presenting the scientific convergence of the notes, the ladder wood, and the gold certificates. The proceedings drew over 700 journalists to a tiny New Jersey town. Hauptmann was convicted of murder and executed by the electric chair in 1936, taking any secrets of potential accomplices to the grave. The trial was a media circus that eventually broke the family. Devastated by grief and constantly stalked by paparazzi, Charles and Anne Lindbergh tacked up and fled the United States for Europe to protect their second child. This tragedy forced a restructuring of American law. Congress passed the Federal Kidnapping Act of 1932, or the Lindbergh Law, making kidnapping a federal offense and granting the FBI authority to cross state lines the moment a child went missing. The kidnapping destroyed the Lindbergh's sense of security, but the hunt for the killer forced a disjointed police system to integrate forensic wood analysis, currency tracking, and federal oversight into a single standardized investigative model.